Good day, everybody. My name is Dana Massat with the Send Your Soul and the Mindful Mama, and welcome to my special series, Mindful Souls. Today, I'm interviewing Shelly Burton. I'm so excited. She's an internationally acclaimed energy medicine woman. She hasn't been doing this her whole life. Of course, like many healers, um, there's a life-altering event. There's a bump in their course that aligns them from your normal typical journey to a journey of a medicine woman or a healer. Very few healers started off that way. Usually it's like something happened to align that person with their purpose. She is a spiritual guide to her clients, but she does this interesting therapy that I have never heard of. It's Samhara. So we're going to let her explain that and discuss that. Um, she, interesting enough, she has a medical background. So she is proficient in biomedicine, anthropology, um, and she combines that with emotional and spiritual healing, which I love. I love when people have foundations and either the medical model, the psychology model, and they bring that into the energy healing. She has been, her work has been displayed BBC World Service, Toronto Star, the Huffington Post. So you might have heard of her. So welcome, Shelly. Thank you so much for joining me today on Mindful Souls. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. So something, part of your introduction that I added was you spoke of your life altering incident, and you can go into that if you so desire. But I noticed with healers, they're kind of living this normal typical life, and then something happens to align them on their path, and it's
Mm.
interesting and inconvenient at the same time.
Okay.
Was that is that kind of what happened to you that aligned you to be this medicine woman?
Yeah, well, I think when you're really not listening, your life is going to reflect that,
Yeah.
right? So whether you're called to be a healer or not, if you're trying to run programs and operate things that don't feel good to you at your core, like in your heart, and like in my case, I thought I was doing everything great. Like I thought I was really happy. But I couldn't see that I was living for external validation. And that's where my happiness was largely coming from, thinking I was successful. So in my case, like I think my injury, which was a brain injury, a head injury, one of many, it was just like the one that was one too many. And I fully gave this one to myself in a basketball game.
Oh my goodness.
It came at the right time. So I do think our soul knows when it's time to wake up. And it came for me when I was finishing university. So it was a point at which I could start to recreate my life. It would have been much harder for me if I was in high school, trying to follow still, the path that kind of is laid out for you
Yes.
by society. So I do think that for me, it happened at the right time. And I had no idea it was to get me on some other path. At the time, I was just trying to survive,
Yes.
just trying to like, oh my gosh, I feel terrible and nothing's working, you
Ugh,
know? And I think what makes you a healer, what draws out the healer in you is when you go, well, this has to change,
yes.
and if nothing's going to work, then that people are telling me, then I have to figure out how. And I think that's what alternative medicine in its many forms is here to help us do, is to tune in, well, what actually makes me feel good? Like, what do I want? What's my body trying to say? And through that process of starting to listen inwards, my healing journey began. And it
That's
resulted in me doing healing work, but it was really from this innocent place of like, oh my God, I need to like get better because I can't function with my brain not working.
yes, absolutely. It's interesting how this world that we live in, it does feel like a simulation at times. It tricks us to thinking like we're happy, we're okay. Like I got the white picket fence, I got the degree, I got the family. And so many people, especially with COVID, dove into the discomfort. They had no choice. So the running away wasn't an option. Going to the restaurant wasn't an option. Going to the office wasn't an option. So many people are like feeling that discomfort. Um, since you're an energy healer, are you receiving that on the other end? Meaning, are clients coming to you? What are they bringing to you right now?
So I'm seeing a lot of different things. My personal perspective on COVID is it's like evolutionary pressure. It's
Yes.
pushing us. Just like you said, we're having to sit for the first time, I think, ever
Yeah.
our lives for an extended period with really uncomfortable feelings. So I think a beautiful outcome of this is some people are saying, I've been ignoring this for a long time. I need to do something about it. So that for me is really cool, how it's pushing some people to open up. I've seen some really sad outcomes of it with like addiction spiraling, where I've like really done my best to like be like, no, like stay here with us, like stay with the light. But on the grand scheme, I think what COVID is doing is it's bringing up everything difficult and uncomfortable, which really does affect us. It are the things, these uncomfortable emotions are what create pain in our lives and what holds us back. So we're in this opportunity, in this collective opportunity of like, what are we going to do about it? Are we
Yeah.
going to heal it? So I just feel really grateful that so many souls are brave enough, to start doing this inner work, because it's not always easy,
Yes.
to look inwards. So I feel like it's a privilege to support people through this really, really deep change. Even in my own life, I've gone through like, honestly, the deepest healing ever in such a short time.
Yes.
I also see, I see people questioning reality, I think, in a way they haven't before, which is helpful.
Yes.
Because to create a new society, which we're being called to do, we have to question the way we've been doing things. Like, why, we're working in new ways. We're working from home a lot of the time. That's a shift in our society.
Right.
It saves it's less pollution for the environment. So I think in the same ways we're reimagining how we live our external lives, we're able to start to reimagine, like, why do I think the things I do? Why do I have the feelings I have? And I just want to help people to just clear pain, basically.
Yes. Yes. And it's also interesting with COVID, like bringing the family back together. With
Mm.
the kids, like having to do some of the school from home, some kids, most of it, bringing the family back together, because I always thought it was strange. And even when I started having kids, like mom goes to work, dad goes to work, you're spending this small time with your biological family. It's like we're this rat race. So I thought
Mhm.
that was beautiful, like coming back together.
Oh, I love that perspective. I love that. Yes, connection.
Yes.
It's a time for, so that shows to me it's connecting with your family, and also the sitting with the discomfort is asking for deeper inwards connection, and where what's not working for you is going to show up, right? And we need support with that stuff. We need support.
Absolutely.
We don't have to figure it out on our own. And that's where I think energy medicine and the trauma work is something that is self-love, to give yourself, we all need support to get through the tough times. Mm-hmm.
Now, I saw you've trained in many things,
Yeah.
but where do you work from? Like, how do you work from? Is it from the trainings, or is it like your higher self? Is your
Mhm.
guides guiding you? How would you describe your experience, like when you're working with a client?
Okay. So, I mean, let me just talk about what I do in my sessions, and then I'll go
Okay.
through my training. So, I'm extremely intuitive. After my brain injury, I became highly sensitive, and I could feel everyone's emotions in my body. I could see their energy. It was very intense for me just seeing everyone's pain all the time. So, the training I went through was really like how to function with that much sensitivity and heal myself enough to learn how to operate in the world.
Yeah.
In my sessions, I read, so I get really clear on what people's intention are, because I'm here to support you or my client to be their own healer, right? So their intention is everything. And I tease it out until I get something really good. You know, if you try to say something and it's not really what you want, I'm like, let's keep going until we get something juicy.
Yes.
So we get a good intention. And then I just read their aura. So I do, if they come to see me in person for a private session, I'll just put my hands on healing. And just, or I can do it from like further out in their field, just feel what's going on and see where I'm feeling in their body the blocks are, the pain points, and where we need to start. Then I do a combination. If it was on Zoom, I would just scan their fields, because I can feel the same whether we're in person or on a call. It doesn't make a difference to me.
Yes, agreed.
My senses work the same. So, and then I work through them to help them clear blocks at the mental and emotional level to help them align with their intention. So often this involves going through buried traumas that we don't realize are there because we numb to pain. Like that's our survival mechanism, is to numb to painful emotions because our body's trying to protect us from feeling pain. But unfortunately, that keeps us in resonance with pain.
Yes.
So I want to undo it, feel it, and then help you lock into a new, better feeling reality. And I have really intensive programs to help you rewire your thoughts and your emotions at the subconscious level. The subconscious mind creates 95% of your thoughts. So I have a really intensive program for those who are like go-getters and are like, yes, I want to completely change my reality. I have a very like high level process I take them through. But my sessions also mix in channeling.
Yeah. Awesome.
Channeling, my guides speak through me. My voice changes to a British like accent, which is really fun because it just like makes it very simple and clear what's going on. And I do sound healing and journeying and, you know, all kinds of sound therapy as appropriate to the client.
Okay.
So that's what my sessions do. To answer your question about the training.
Yeah.
I didn't go into this thinking I was going to become a healer. I just, you know, I started with Reiki and I just tried it because someone suggested it. And it was the first time in my whole life my sensitivity made something easier. Like, I was like, oh, I can help people with feeling everything. Yes. So that was really cool for me. So a lot of the foundation in how I approach healing comes through many layers of training, which taught me how to be a clear channel and how to channel, right? And how to conduct ceremony and how and be in sacred space. Okay. Eventually, I outgrew all my teachers.
I can relate.
Yeah, and I had to listen to myself. So at this point, my practice is rooted in a study of theory combined with what works for me. And I live my teachings. So I live by my intuition. That's me combined with logic. And so you get that in your session. There's no difference for me in how I practice in a session. The only difference is in a session, my mind is out of the way. It is solely about the client and supporting them and holding sacred space. And that's been the inner work. And everything I bring in, the suggestions, the counseling is honestly rooted in my own healing.
Yes, I love it. I love what you said, that you're living your practice, because there are a lot of healers, like therapists, doctors even, that aren't living what they're giving.
Yeah.
So I love that.
It's really important.
It's also like pairing the intuition with the logic. I love how you said that, because I always tell my clients, intuition with your wisdom. You have life experiences that you want to pair almost with that gut instinct, with that intuition. So I like how you said that too. What is Samhara?
So one day, this is like many years ago, I think it was in 2015. I was training with my mentor at the time. I was doing a 6-month intensive training in New York and hosting ceremony. And at the time, I had been calling what I was doing Reiki. And I said to her one day, I'm like, this just isn't Reiki anymore. It's so far beyond Reiki. And she goes, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like, what is this called? She's like, ask. So I'm like, okay, what am I doing?
Yes.
And I got the word Samhara. And she said samsara, which is a more common, I believe, Sanskrit word for a very like meditative state.
Okay.
And I was like, no, it's samhara. And so we looked up the word samhara, and in and of itself, it had a special meaning for me. Sam was my horse that died when I was 14 in my hands. It was like my core wound. And hara is your power center. So those two syllables together meant something. And then as we looked into the definition, what we defined it as is it's a state of evolution by going within. And it's that process of letting go of illusion, like what doesn't serve. It's like a death of old beliefs so you can get back to what is true, which is the love underneath. So that's the meaning of samhara. It is a system of energy medicine that I created and that I'm licensed to practice and I train people in, which is really teaches, it starts with Reiki, teaching hands-on healing, how to be a clear channel and sound healing. And it progresses for those who qualify into higher level teachings of how to channel, like I do, and how to host ceremony. And just, I just want to help people be like access their intuition and be really, really clear healers, because if you feel called, I can teach you. I've learned a lot.
And just being a clear channel for divine and source energy, I love it. And I resonate with your story because I would constantly outgrow my mentors as well. And I started to have to just channel like the Sun and Masters channel source to get those downloads of even like this feels, same thing you said. I'm like, what I'm doing feels more than what I was trained in. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
And that's when you start to tap your uniqueness, and that's beautiful, because we all, and that's actually something I teach. I don't want people to, they don't have to do it just like I do. I want them to be clear that I'm a stickler on, but everyone has their own unique way of practicing. And so when I train people, I want them to find their gift. Like, how do you practice this healing? What's your way of doing it? Because it's going to be a little bit different than mine and someone else's. We all hear, for example, and feel. Some people are visual, some people are, they just feel in their body and they don't get a vision. You know, everyone is different. And I feel like the best teachers support you to explore your uniqueness. And the point is to spread your own wings at some point, because you want the trust in yourself to be that strong. So you can guide others to trust themselves. That's freedom. And that's especially what we want to be creating on our planet right now.
Yes. I love that. It's not about replicating like the guru or the healer. It's awakening it in yourself. So I love that your program supports that. It is important because everybody's gifts are different.
They are.
You are absolutely an empath, and obviously you're probably attracting a lot of empaths. How do you help them? Even if a client's just coming to you, like, I'm absorbing all this energy, it's making me feel depressed, anxious. What is like step 1, 2, and 3 that you give to them to help them?
Well, I think first it's identifying what exactly is going on. Like, a lot of empaths for sure come to me, but they don't realize that, for example, they're struggling with codependency, or they're taking on too much, or, you know, they don't always realize the thing that's causing the grief or the burnout. So first it's sorting out what is because I think overstimulation is very common for empaths, like the deep feelers. So what's causing the burnout or the overstimulation? Because when you're overstimulated, you can't hear yourself because your body's in that high stress zone. And to hear our intuition, we need to be in calm. So if I could say so when I'm working in session, it's very individualized to the person. I need to first get them grounded and in their bodies. So whatever is taking them out of their body, we need to solve that. Like, whatever's causing a checkout. As blanket tips for empaths, a few things. We need to be in nature. We thrive in nature. So if we're going and we're not taking the time to ground into our bodies, to take a moment to be in the park and have stillness, we just don't feel good. Okay. So we're not meant to do this fast-paced thing all day. We can be extremely quick and productive when we're clear, but there needs to be time to ground into our bodies.
Absolutely.
Nature is important. Okay. two, the other we can't be responsible for other people's emotions. So I think that's the main thing I teach, is how to work with your sensitivity. Well, that's been my life. So how do I be aware of what someone else is feeling and have compassion for it and not take it on and not try to fix it? So
Absolutely. What a concept.
this is hard when you
Yeah.
care, right? And it's vital life skills as an empath, because we want to hold the vision for other people as capable of healing their own wounds and be there to empathize with them and offer them compassion along the way. Okay.
Yes.
Another really important thing for empaths: Wi-Fi off at night, minimal time on electronics. You know, I change my screen to black and white because we're really, like my iPhone screen, for example, because we get overstimulated really easily. So the less like multi messages and overstimulation you can get, the better. And lastly, learning how to say no. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. Yeah.
I feel like I'm constantly teaching boundaries. And then I sit here and think, why aren't we teaching boundaries in kindergarten, first grade, junior high? Why is this conversation just happening in adulthood? And it's
I
usually
know. I
at
know.
the
And,
yeah.
you know, it's something that's so important to teach children, because or our inner child, because when there's healthy boundaries in place, it actually teaches children that they're safe and they're respected. So when we feel allowed to say no without consequences, we feel that we can trust ourselves, we feel safe. So I think boundaries are it's something that I mean, a lot of us are working through, like a lot of families, there's codependency, there's conditional love, which all get tied up in messy boundaries, because if I set a boundary, I might lose love. Like, that's the fear.
Yes.
Right? And so when we know that we are worth unconditional love, we are worth love, whether we do this thing or not, if we say no or not, then we can trust ourselves, and we can trust that the love will still be there as we respect ourselves. And so, yes, that is something I really hope that, yeah, we can learn as a society, because it's a part of love, being able to say no and to respect other people's no's.
I know, it's so interesting. It's this feeling when I start working with empaths. I go to the solar plexus first, and I got this download a long time ago that the reason why we feel like when we come interaction with someone, we feel like we have to take their energy and emotions into us. And I think it's connected to being in the womb and like we're sucking the nutrients from mom. So it's safe, we create this pattern. It's a physical pattern. It's energetic. It's survival. And then when we come out into the world to get to know other people, we feel like we need to bring it in. And I actually teach people, like, we're supposed to have this safe meeting zone, like a foot away from us at least, where it's like, hey, I plug in here, you plug in here, we meet here, we exchange here, we go back to ourselves. What do you feel about that? Like energetic boundaries?
So the solar plexus, that's our power center, right? And a lot of times when we get in codependent interactions, like where it gets messy and complicated, and we think that we're responsible for the people around us or what they do as a reflection of us, that's how codependent behavior can start. And codependency is often mixed up with love. Okay, including for empaths. And that actually creates a tug, this lack of clarity in the solar plexus area. So I would say you're right, that this is where the solar plexus can be where we start to feel, I want to say, unclear relationships.
Yes.
Okay. So, however, if that's all you know, you don't have the reference points to see that this is an unclear interaction. You just feel this is complicated and stressful and causing me grief.
Yes.
And so this is where it takes the training in what is a clear relationship. How do I be in knowing that this person is not a reflection of me? Okay. And oh, look, they're trying to make this messy and complicated. That doesn't work for me, so that we can set a boundary. So I think it's a multi-tiered approach. But I do agree with you that the icky, sticky, tug in your stomach is where you can start to feel unhealthy relationships form.
Yes. And people feeling shame and guilt for not taking on other people's stuff as well.
Oh
Because
my God, yes.
that pattern, because it's so familiar, and it's like, well, I feel bad if I don't carry their emotions.
Yeah, okay. And so what I'd say to that is I understand because we care about other people, and caring about other people is a beautiful thing that we can celebrate. However, we are not responsible for other people. And if we think that we have to be responsible for their emotions, we need to fix their emotions so we feel better, really, at the end of the day, so we don't have to feel that. What are we communicating to that person?
Yeah.
We are, in essence, communicating they can't do this on their own. And how is that empowering them? It's not.
Yes.
So the most loving thing we can do is empathize, have compassion, support them, like understand how they're feeling, seek to understand. Okay.
Yeah.
And if they want support, then offer it. But
Yeah.
if we can't sit in their discomfort, it's because it's pushing on something in us, in my experience, that we have not yet healed. And so if we're needing to rescue someone else, it's because we don't like what they're mirroring in us. So we need to be responsible and do our work.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And what do you feel is the correlation empath, sensitive souls, addiction? I see so many
Okay.
sensitive
Yeah,
souls addiction. Yeah.
for sure. So I can speak from my perspective on this. I'm sure there's more than one.
Yeah.
So empaths, highly sensitive souls, to me, that's like one category. There are people who deeply feel. I'm just going to grab a drink for a moment.
Yes.
Okay. At the core of addiction is often a lack of connection.
Yeah.
A lack of emotional connection, and that that creates trauma when we aren't imprinted into the experience of unconditional love, and our hearts don't get that emotional support. And when you're highly sensitive, love and emotional connection is food. We need it. Okay. And so sometimes what can happen with addictions is when people don't have that, they turn to substances to try to get the dopamine hit. And then unfortunately, there's just that spiral. Then it's so hard to break, like chemically,
Yeah.
the response in the body. So addiction is a response, from what I have seen, in the lack of connection. It can happen to highly sensitive souls because their need for connection is that much higher. And when it's not there, it's that much more painful.
Yes. And I notice because a lot of sensitive souls, upper chakras are very like much more activated than the lower ones. And
Yeah.
sometimes I notice they'll gravitate towards substances almost to probably do some numbing, but also almost like to ground in a weird way.
Well, you're trying to access a high, like a feeling good, but you're not doing it by doing the work. So it will never
Right.
make you feel better. And it's a dissociation. Like you're leaving your body. And this is where a lot of sensitive, like this is the work. It's learning
Yeah.
how to be on earth. It's not just going up and having a lovely experience of what
Yeah.
love is in a vision. It's how are we living here? Am I ground? Am I present in
Yeah.
my body? Like, that's spirituality for me, and it's hard to do when we've had pain that is so unbearable that it feels impossible or terrifying to face. But that's
Yeah.
exactly what we need to sit through and apply love to. And if we haven't had that model of what love feels like, how do you know how to feel better? You don't. And that's where the heal, like I get in there, I do very deep work. So yeah, there's no dissociation. You are not going to heal by dissociating. It's just not going
Yeah.
to happen. That's your bot, but it's not, it's okay that that's people's natural inclination, because we want to protect ourselves from feeling pain. So of course we
Yeah.
want to try to do it, but we need help learning how to apply love to our deepest wounds. That is being here on earth, and that is self-love.
I love it. And one part, important part of healing wounds, childhood wounds.
Mhm.
I notice when I start discussing childhood wounds in the beginning, I get the client through it, but they feel like if I explore my childhood wounds, I'm calling mom and dad bad.
Oh yeah, no, okay.
So,
So
so how do you get past that?
well, see, here's the thing. there's not judgment. We're working
Yeah.
with the emotional experience of the inner child, right? So if the inner child felt hurt because something was missing, it's not implying that mom and dad were bad people. Okay. It's acknowledging that you felt a lack, and that's okay to feel. And I think the most important thing, and this is where I created a project called Empathy Heals, is because I want to teach us how to empathize with our own emotions, our own emotional experience. Like, your feelings are okay, like whatever they were. And when we can let our feelings be okay and not judge them, then we're healing. So your inner child is allowed to have had pain. It does not make your parents bad.
Yeah.
Right. And then what we do is work to heal the experience of the inner child to make sure that they get what they need.
Yes, like the repair process. Yeah. Like,
and that yeah. Absolutely. And as an adult, like, oh, hey, I had this lack, so I need to be really attentive to that as my present adult self, to know that I am worthy of, let's say I felt like mom and dad were really harsh on me, for example, and that was a childhood wound. Like, the adult in you can know, well, mom and dad like had a lot going on, like raising kids, for example. Okay, but still, if the inner child has that experience of like harshness, we need to make sure that wound is tended to, and that inner child opens to the experience of softness. And then the adult self walks around with the knowing of they are worth softness.
Yes. Something that came to me when you were talking was, you get those people that are like, I'm doing all the things, I've been doing all the things, but like nothing's working. But I noticed the one thing they're not doing is just being with themselves. Kind of like that inner dive, like the discomfort. Like, I'm doing the meditation, I'm taking the supplements, I did this workshop, I did this. What do you do to gently coach that person into the thing that they're missing that's so important?
Well, I think there's a really amazing phrase saying you have to feel to heal. Okay. Yeah. So if we're not feeling, we're not healing.
Yeah.
And to me, it's that simple. So if you're not sitting with the really uncomfortable wounds and letting love be applied to them, then you're doing an important part of the work.
Yeah.
However, it is only through deep feeling that we can transmute literally our emotional body. We have to work through the discomfort and literally transform the emotion through the application of love. And it takes someone who knows how to do that to guide you through it.
Yes, I love that. Speaking of guiding someone through that, what trainings do you have coming up? What are you working on?
So right now, my pivot project for the COVID was starting a new initiative called Empathy Heals. So right now I've launched a free 30-day meditation challenge on freedom through love. So it's not a formal training, but it is a self-healing process that helps you reprogram your subconscious mind that creates 95% of your thoughts to trust in the experience of freedom and love. And I launched this because I literally just want to help people feel better, because we're in really tough times. And I feel like more than ever now, we need to concentrate as individuals and as a collective on which way we're going in our lives and which way we're going as a community and a society.
I love that. Yeah. I'm definitely going to share that. The free meditation, the 30-day challenge. I love that. Yeah. And it's so needed.
It's so needed. And I just wanted to help people. There's going to be a lot more courses on like trauma work and listening to your intuition coming down the pipeline. And of course, I'm always available for Zoom sessions and in-person sessions as our policies. I'm based in Toronto, Canada allow.
Yes. I know we have to keep like evolving and changing as stuff. It was so lovely to have you on the podcast today. The information you shared, I know it's going to help so many people. I'm so grateful.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing.
Have a blessed day, and we'll chat soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Bye.